going to start recording. Let's actually do just a couple checks. Check, check, check. Okay, Ellen?
Check, 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 check.
Sam?
Check 1, 2.
That's
Can you
perfect.
hear me?
I can. That's perfect. Okay.
Awesome.
All right, we're recording, which is always good. And here we go. All right. Hey guys, welcome to House Meeting Podcast. We are, of course, a podcast about Big Brother, and this season, Big Brother All-Stars. So, man, what a weird week where nothing happened and also a lot happened. I think we have a lot to go over today. Here with me is Sam Miller and Ellen Newstedt. And, of course, you can always find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. We also broadcast our recordings live on YouTube. We also let people know when those are happening on our social media. So Instagram, I actually don't ever tell people on Twitter. I probably should, but look, I got to set all this stuff up. I don't have time for that. So go to Instagram to find out when we're going to be live. Usually it's going to be, I think, Wednesdays and Fridays around noon. That's kind of what seems to be working.
Yeah.
So that's the general. Sometimes we do it earlier, sometimes later, whatever. If you have feedback for the show, you can email us at housemeetingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can fill out the contact sheet on our website at housemeetingpod.com. Please also donate to the show if you're enjoying this at Patreon, patreon.com/housemeeting. Now, hi guys, how are you?
Well, I think we knew this was coming from last week. He was one of my favorite players, so it's so sad to see Kaser go. But it was definitely, I don't know, an interesting week playing out.
Yeah, it's cool to see things starting to fall apart. And that's really all you wish
Yes.
for as a Big Brother viewer.
Yeah, especially once like your favorite players are out, that's all you have to grasp onto anymore is just then the drama. So so speaking of, a couple people not being here anymore, there was a TV Guide article, and the headline is Big Brother All-Stars is shaping up to be a big disappointment.
Oh,
Yeah, from TV Guide. Ouch. Although I can't.
Kevin's gonna win.
Although, I don't know if I disagree with that headline. So basically, unlike some other reality franchises, Big Brother knows that All-Star season should be special events. One of the problems that they have with this is that not everyone playing is an All-Star. When the cast was confirmed during the season premiere, there were a few names that immediately stood out as legendary players like Janelle, Kaser, Danny, and Ian, and beloved house guests like Da'Vonne. But while we could understand why a few were included, even if they weren't necessarily standout players, so like a Nicole Anthony, for instance, they couldn't understand why David Alexander was there. His inclusion in the cast is not only baffling, but is dragging down the overall game. Ouch.
I don't agree that it's dragging down my bigger problem is I get what they're saying, but an element of chaos is good for TV, I think.
Yeah.
I think screwing up Tyler's plan last week, as terrible as that is for the general game, definitely set some of the turmoil forward for this week. It definitely started fraying that main alliance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, listen, my thoughts on David specifically are that I understood in the beginning why he was cast. And that's because last season, he did, as crazy as he is, and as much as I can't stand him now and think he's the worst Big Brother player maybe of all time, I do think that on his season, in that first week or partial week that he was there, he had a weirdly good read where no one else knew what was happening. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but I just remember him having this like insanely good read. And it was like, whoa, this guy's going to be great. and then he like left in this fluke situation.
Mm.
And so I see why they would want to bring him back, because that's interesting. And I think a lot of
Absolutely.
people were interested in seeing like, okay, well, what if you put this guy who might have been this genius in the house in with a bunch of all-stars? But that being said, I think it's part of it is just the phrasing of it being all-stars. I don't know what else they could have called it, but it
Yeah.
implies that these people were the stars of the show when he was not.
Right.
And so that makes it frustrating. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
that's
People say in every season that this season's terrible, and
Yeah.
sure, it goes downhill and blah blah blah. But I don't know. I'm having fun.
I'm for my first season. I gasped multiple times this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big, honest gasps. So
Well, that's
it's clearly exciting to some degree.
good.
Yeah.
That's great news. The article just goes on to say, yet despite proving to be a liability, David is not a target, nor was Memphis Garrett. And while Tyler, Enzo, and Cody and a few other players want to go after Danny, they're too cowardly to go after them themselves and keep saying that they'll make a big move eventually. And
Yep.
this
This
article
is my bigger problem.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
article's not wrong. Like, everybody's all talk and no game. Blah 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 blah. It just keeps going. I mean,
Danny's playing hard, which
Yeah.
is
She's playing
impressive.
hard.
It's dangerous, I can tell.
but she has to win something in order.
Absolutely.
Like, when you
Oh,
play that
no.
hard, you have to win something. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
otherwise, usually you would get kicked off. But it doesn't. I still don't think she's gonna get kicked off because this cast is so weird. Anyway, this article is basically saying what kind of a lot of people are saying about this season, where it's kind of old school versus new school, and the problem is old school is getting kicked off, but they're more fun to watch. And
Yes.
so I sort of have, as we start talking about this, like, I have feelings and thoughts on this whole subject matter, but anyway, I we'll get to that later, because there's a specific part that I want to talk about, and why I'm angry at this season right now.
I think part of it too is just that like it's a little boring to watch them just constantly go after Janelle and Kaser and blah de blah. And it's like been the same story for the first 4 weeks. It's
Yeah.
just they're still just all mad at Janelle. This week was still all about Janelle. And so I think in that sense, that's boring to watch. So I think it might change. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that it'll change after this, because things are kind of crumbling, and all these weird big alliances and fake alliances are all kind of crumbling. So we'll see.
Yeah. So this past week, just to kind of recap slightly, Monday we had noms happen, which was Kaser and Kevin. And who was HOH? I don't care. Oh, Enzo. That's right.
Enzo.
I can't even remember. So much has happened since then. One thing that I noted about this episode. So first of all, I'm going to say that Monday, I felt as somebody who's watched Big Brother for a long time, and I think this is probably different for Sam, but as somebody who's watched it for a long time, I felt so bored by Monday and Wednesday's episodes that Thursday then was like a gift. But Monday and Wednesday, I was just like, oh my gosh, just like something needs to happen. So I don't have that many notes, but I did say that David, and I don't mean to harp on him even more, but can he just answer a single question? Can he
Yeah.
answer just one question without asking the same question back to the person?
Yeah.
Like, I
I,
think-
don't know what that strategy is, to just never answer a question.
I
But
don't.
it's
From-
making it so that he never has an alliance member.
Yeah, because who
True.
wants to talk to him?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say as like a overall strategy, it has not worked well for him. In that moment, I was like kind of into it weirdly. I don't
Okay.
know. I mean, he was implicating himself in something that's not necessarily good, which wasn't a good move. But like, taking a moment of tension of these people really wanting to know something and using that to stretch it psychologically to up their level of intrigue can be a successful tactic, just not in this case.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was so funny because each person came in, and the same thing happened when each person came in. It's like Davon came in, and they're like, "Were you the hinky vote?" She was like, "No, who was it?" And then
Yeah.
like whoever else came in, they're like, "Were you?" No. And then David comes in, and he's like, "Why would you ask me that?" And it was just
Yeah.
like it was like such good comedic timing, because it was just a perfect display of everything wrong with his game. It's like everybody's talking, everybody's sharing information. That's what the game is. So if you're just going to be the one person that doesn't, it's going to put, I mean, I guess it's going to put a target, but nobody cares about him anymore. So he's just going to float to the end and maybe win.
Could you imagine a David win? Oh, it would be painful. Nobody would vote for him in jury.
It's not the ideal outcome of watching this show, but it is the ideal revenge for how everyone else is playing this game. Frankly.
That's true. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
I also remember, just to go to David's defense for a second, that I think it was Memphis in the DR, I'm trying to remember, but he said something about how he doesn't feel safe with David in the house. And I think he meant in the game, but it definitely did not seem to come out right.
Yeah.
I remember like scrunching my nose and I was like
why?
Oh, that was probably not
Yeah, there's
what you
specifically a lot of talk about that around not just David, but also Bailey and Davon, which is what makes it, start to feel like a theme. And to just sort of imply like a general untrustworthiness.
Yes.
And people like Cody kind of get around this by saying, I let people come to me the first week, and that's who my inner circle will suddenly become.
Yeah.
And that doesn't factor in, well, what if like Davon and Bailey aren't comfortable coming to you because of how you behave and how you like gravitate maybe towards other white players?
Yeah.
I see that too.
Yeah, it's
I have one other thing in David's defense, one very small thing, and it's that during the HOH competition, he ran.
He did. He did.
Ran.
I noticed that too.
I was like, wow, go, David, go.
He learned. He figured it out, which was nice.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool.
That was nice. So
just throw him a bone. There's
and I guess that's maybe why I felt like it was boring, because a lot of the episode was David, and I'm like, but it's David, you guys. Like that's what you have to edit. Like you don't have anything. Like so it was just kind of
hilarious. I really, really, really am hoping for a David HOH. I think that would be the most fun thing that could happen next.
Yeah.
So
any HOH that isn't part of this alliance, frankly, shake something up.
Yeah.
Anything. Yeah. So then Wednesday came along, and that's where they did the veto, and then the final noms happened. Bailey's edit in this, she got a bad edit.
Yeah.
I had seen on the feed. So I'm going to go back and forth on Bailey, and I think I've already done it several times. I still think she's kind of a terrible person. I don't think she's nice. All of my notes about her for Wednesday's episode was like really in defense of her, because I thought she got a bad edit and they were really only airing her being kind of like rude to Kaysar, and yet they'd had a lot of other really nice conversations that didn't get aired. So I was kind of ready to just defend her wholeheartedly. But then I watched the feeds last night, and I watched her, and I know we're not really supposed to talk about that, but I'm not going to give anything away, but she talked to, I saw her talk to at least 5 people within a 20-minute period, and she was about different topics, but extremely condescending and rude and snotty to every single one of them, but in a different way, and sometimes manipulating them. And I don't like, and maybe that was all her gameplay, and I don't like watching it. I think it's icky.
Yeah.
It's icky.
And so many people are doing that same thing though, and I don't know.
Well, I think it's icky when Danny does it too. Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing is, Bailey's playing it incredibly close to the chest and admitted that. That's what I got from the conversation with Kaysar. At first, I was very taken aback by it. I was like, wow, you're not even going to give, like, he is so clearly going home.
Yeah.
So has been on the chopping block since day one. So it did hurt to, see a favorite player kind of get treated like that. But then she did explicitly say, like, I'm not going to let you know what my game, you don't know if the thing you just pitched to me, if me keeping you is good for my game. How would you possibly know that? That's kind of like the sticking point that made her get upset with Kaysar.
Yeah.
And I understand that in like a basic sense, but also it made me think, and especially with like her whole gameplay this week, is that I think her game is maybe totally up in the air, and because I think to some degree she does realize in her heart that her alliance is the fake alliance, even though she wanted to. She was trying really hard to attest that it was the real alliance to Kaysar. And I think she also clearly identified that she and Day both have major targets on their back all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And it was something that doesn't come from anywhere, because, you know, they're to this point not major threats aside from how other people feel about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get why she's stressed. But...
Yeah, when I was watching that, I was like, when I watched it on the feeds and on TV, I guess too, they showed some of it, but like my first thought was, I mean, I would be a little frustrated too if someone who's on the block and is going home is telling me what to do with my game when my name's not even being brought up yet, as far as I know, and I think I'm in the big alliance. I see why that's frustrating, but what you have to do with that information is not express it. You keep it to yourself and you just respond like, oh, okay. You know, I think you just take it in. And I think that's kind of what Ian does in the game. Like people are always trying to like kind of talk down to him, even though everyone knows he's very, very smart. They're always talking to him like he's a child, and he's very smart. And he just kind of is like, oh, okay, you know, and then he just logs the information and makes the list in his brain of like, this is all the stuff I know now. And that's why he's figuring stuff out. And I don't know. I think that's where her problem is that she gets frustrated, but you have to hold it in a little bit, which seems like the opposite of what you should do in the real world.
Yeah.
But in the Big Brother house, you have to pretend like it doesn't affect you. And so I agree. I see why she was frustrated, because if you think that you're doing well and this guy on the block who's going home is telling you what to do, you feel a little bit like, what are you doing? But
yeah, well, and I think that actually is a really valid point for her personality that I saw last night. I think she is actually trying very hard to hold all of this in, but I think it's not in her personality to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
She's a passionate person. She's a fiery person. We know she likes to yell. We know that. We saw it on her last season. We also saw it. I don't know if you've seen this, but I saw it earlier today. She went like ballistic in the same way she did to Tyler, to Casey on the challenge. She's that person. She likes to scream and
she's talking about it too. You know, she's talked about it on the feeds where she's like working on herself and trying to like work on that way of communicating. And
that's what
part of her.
Right. And that's what I mean, as I think that's exactly what she was doing last night when I saw her being condescending to everyone. She knows she can't blow up, but she can't actually hide her feelings. Yeah. She's not actually good at putting on that poker face. So it comes across. So she's still saying all the kind of terrible things, but it's in a like a sweet way, quote unquote. Yeah. And it's just, for me, it's not coming across the right way. I really desperately want to like her because I love Da'Vonne and I want them to work together and be a power couple. But I honestly believe that Bay is bringing Day down.
Yeah.
That's my statement.
That being said, though, in this particular conversation, what Kaysar was pitching was for her to use the veto on him if she won. And I think that I know that's what he has to do, but that is horrible advice. If she would have used the veto on him, her game would be even in a worse place than she is now. So that's not to say that her response was warranted or the right way of dealing with it or whatever, but I do think what he was pitching was absolute nonsense, and that was just maybe not. I don't know what I said this in the last episode. I don't know what the right moves were for Kaysar.
He pitched it to every person.
He didn't do them. He didn't do everything that he needed to do in exactly the right way, and maybe that way was impossible, but I think he was pitching it to the wrong person.
Well, he pitched it to everyone. So he didn't just pitch it to Bailey.
True.
But and so then there was the veto comp, which I feel like I'm being very negative on this episode, but the veto comp really pissed me off because that's an HOH comp. Why was that a veto comp?
Yeah, it was an HOH comp, but I thought it was very
intense.
Cool.
Oh my God.
It was so cool.
So hard. I cannot believe Kevin won. I cannot believe it.
I know. That's why
I knew.
Did you?
You did?
Oh yeah. See, this is, I don't want to assume anything, but speaking with two straight women, you don't understand the kind of athleticism and specifically elasticity that comes with homosexuality. So I was like, Kevin's
He's
done
got
some yoga. Those are yoga legs.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a hot
honestly,
take right there.
I thought this comp was so cool. I thought it was so cool.
It's a
I
great
loved it.
comp. I just was like, I want to see all of them struggling, not just these ones.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
This is one of the first times I've liked Memphis because he did a really good job at announcing it, and they put a little.
Yeah, he
hat in the
did.
He was.
I
he was
wrote
like,
that down too. I was like loving Memphis's host character.
He was like a Pokemon or Power Rangers villain. It felt like.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it.
No, that's a good point. So then, let's see. So Kevin won.
It was
And-
also ironic that Kevin won this like puppet master game, considering he hasn't made any moves or talked
Yeah.
any game.
And he's really-
like the furthest from a puppet master in the house.
His first move when literally anything happens in the house is to whine at someone.
Yeah.
And be real
And then tell
sad.
everyone.
Mhm.
Like, so Kevin won. So of course he used it on himself. But before that happened, Miss Christmas volunteers to be a pawn. And so this is where my rant is coming because
Oh no.
WTF? Like, what is wrong? This right here is the problem with the last few seasons. There have been times where people volunteer to be a pawn. I think it's stupid. I think that often people do it out of desperation. And things like that. They don't do it because they're friends with the HOH. That is an idiot move. Look, it worked out fine for her, and that's really what pisses me off, is that she was able to go up as a pawn voluntarily, not go home, and that's just okay for this season. Like, it's that friendly. It's that friendly that, like, they didn't even talk once about her going home. It was never even discussed because it was just not going to happen. And that is not Big Brother. And what my problem with it, I apologize for the rant, but my problem with it.
I love the passion.
Thank you for the rant.
I really like the passion. Keep going.
But my real problem with this is that these people in this house are being friendly. They're being friends. They're chatting. That's great. But they are not there for that. They're there to entertain. They are there to entertain an audience. It's kind of like, and I don't mean to show the fourth wall here, but in podcasting, we are here, we are friends, we are sisters, but we are also here to entertain. So you have to put on a little bit of a show at some point, and that's what they are not doing.
This isn't even my real voice, actually.
Hello, this is Helen's real voice.
But do you know what I mean? You don't volunteer to be a pawn because it makes the show boring.
Boring, yes. Okay, I have a couple things to say about this. I totally agree with you. One thing is that someone on Reddit posted this, and it's actually really genius, and I wish that they would do this. And if we're going to start a petition out there, if you're listening,
Change.org.
But the change.org petition should be as follows.
Oh my God.
Eliminate Julie telling the house guests how many votes there were for someone. And what that does is makes it so that people can secretly vote however they want to vote. People don't have to vote with the house.
That's cool.
So it's
That's a good
just
idea.
Kaser, you were voted out, period?
Yeah, because if you don't tell them how many votes, then nobody knows. And while that does I understand why they do it, because they thought that would give more drama, because then people discuss who was the hinky vote. But if they didn't know at all, then people could truly just vote for who they want out.
And
it would just be like they have no idea how many.
That's
So
interesting.
I thought that was really interesting. The other thing is that this happened in I'm going to talk about Big Brother Canada really briefly, but in Big Brother Canada, this happened in the last season, which got canceled because of COVID. But for 3 weeks, this was like the worst season of Big Brother Canada because it's normally great. But for 3 weeks, they did this. People were like putting themselves on the block. People were like saying, please vote me to go home. I want to see my kids. Like people were quitting, and it was just so uninteresting. And then COVID, and then it all got shut down. It was like the worst. it was the most time I've ever wasted on something.
Really?
Hours and hours. So it reminded me of that, and I agree. I think it's boring. I think that you are also getting paid to be essentially an actor on a TV show, and you need to not do that. That's so annoying.
Well-
That was their one good chance to get rid of Ian.
Yeah.
That was such a good,
It was great.
no one would have voted for Kaser if Ian were up on the block, and then they would have all voted for Kaser the following week anyway.
Right.
Yeah. Or Danny. I mean,
Everybody
they were all
wanted
talking about
Danny out.
Danny.
Absolutely. I mean, Danny made a little less sense, but just because I don't think she's as much of a threat in their minds.
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
But like they accurately identified that Ian, the exact game he's playing.
Yeah.
And how effective it could potentially be.
Yeah.
It was disappointing.
But-
It is. And one
But
thing
Ian kind of got the head up by spilling this information in the end. Like
Yeah.
he caused this turmoil before those eyes truly focused on him, which is very lucky for him and a savvy move.
Yeah, it really is. Well, and just to finalize my rant, these people, this particular cast, have all been on here before. They've all made their money from this. They're all making their money from Fab Fun or whatever the box is. They're all on Instagram. They all have these things. I don't truly believe any one of them are in there for the money. They're in there to play the game. So why aren't you playing the game?
Yeah.
Why?
They're so afraid of leaving that they're not trying anything.
Yes.
And it's like, don't you want to? You'll actually get more Instagram followers and more sponsor money if you do something in the house and get eliminated early. That's why people like Davon. I don't even know. I feel like she never even made it to jury or something. In case she never made it to jury.
Yeah.
And look at how much people like them. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense for your career, which is we've identified why they're all there.
Yeah.
To not do anything in the house. It's so boring.
Drives me nuts. But
that being said, I still like Enzo.
Yeah, I do still like Enzo
him.
also.
He
So
didn't do anything, but
I like that they call him Meow Meow.
that did grow on me a little bit. I hate to admit it, but it did.
See?
All right.
I said it the whole time.
Well, before we get over to Thursday, let's go ahead and do our favorite part of this show.
So this week, last night, Julie Chen was wearing some, I'm going to start from the bottom up.
Okay.
She was wearing some color blocked nude and black character shoes
Okay.
with pom-poms glued to the back. I don't know if you guys could see that.
I did not see that.
But if
I
you
did
go on
not
Instagram,
notice.
you can see that there are pom-poms glued to the back, a string of pom-poms. She was wearing some leather horse riding leggings. And then on top, she paired her classic cross necklaces with pearl earrings and a long-sleeved floral ruffled blouse with a neck bow that, what is it? It screams Zoom church sermon. I mean, I don't know. It was very
Like casual horse race,
yes.
which yeah.
Casual horse race. Yes, it was very like Pleasantville, but meets leather leggings.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. And like, I know on Instagram, at least I don't know if you've seen this, but she's been going really hard with the religious stuff,
Oh,
which
very hard. Yeah.
yeah. And that's who should, I have nothing against,
Sure.
that's her life. But yeah, it's just really showing in her outfits lately.
Yeah.
she just-
Interesting. There is a
it looks-
connection.
And like her hair, she just looks like kind of like an evangelical
Yeah.
Christian outfit.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But what did surprise me was that the silhouette, if you just look at the silhouette, it wasn't so bad. The
No.
silhouette wasn't terrible. And if you look close, you see things like pom-poms and there's a lot going on. There were wrist ruffles and a neck ruffle and a neck bow and a very busy pattern and like two different types of leather on the pants. And it was a lot going on. But the silhouette wasn't awful. And I don't think that if you look from far away, she really looks that bad.
Yeah.
And it was her first outfit that didn't have any like glaring fit issues that could have been
Yes.
avoided, which like they haven't all had totally major ones, but this one like was gonna fit and look fine no matter what.
Yeah.
The way it's
So that being said,
How are you going to judge this one? What was the standout item?
wrist ruffles.
Okay,
I'm gonna
I
say
like
there
that.
were a lot of standout items. I could go pom poms, but the wrist ruffles in her Instagram picture, if you look, she's going
Oh.
like this, and they're very clown like.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give this 3 wrist ruffles because
Okay.
as awful as it kind of was, she maybe pulled it off.
She
I
did.
don't know.
I think 3. I agree with 3. Right,
Yeah.
middle of the road.
I thought about this a lot last night. I was like racking my brain, and I was like, 2 seems too low, 3 seems too high, but
Well, this is
But I think
very
it's
important.
3.
All right.
yes.
3 wrist ruffles
Wrist
for Miss
ruffles.
Julie Chen Moonves. All right. So let's just call this Kaser's eviction. I mean, nobody was surprised by it because the house is kind of boring. We knew he was going to go home. He knew he was going to go home. Everybody knew he was going to go home. But he didn't go out quietly. So
no.
let's just go ahead and revisit what or Kaser's eviction speech.
I really love every one of you guys on a personal level. Now, when it comes to gameplay and strategy, I think you guys all suck. Here's why. Cody and Nicole have been running this house since day one. And they have a secret alliance that's going to take them all the way to the end. Meanwhile, the guys have an alliance, Enzo, I already knew when we were talking, with David and Tyler, because it was obvious. And then the last alliance, of course, Danny and Nicole and Cody. Cody finds himself in this love triangle, but no one's willing to take a shot. So here I am, sitting around on the block. So if you guys want to play the game, All Stars, or if you want to have a reunion and sit around and maybe play charades, then keep things the same.
Sick burn.
If you want to play All Stars, then keep me here. Okay.
All right. So, I mean,
Best move all season.
yeah, honestly, it was wonderful to watch. I was like, finally, somebody did something.
I thought it was so cute how like sweet he seems in it because he's just such a sweet, calm, cool, and collected man that is the delivery
Yeah.
vocally that he had for that speech. But yeah, I loved it. It was great.
And my favorite part too was that Cody was the first person to go vote. And when he stood up, I don't know if you guys caught this, but Kaser kind of yelled to across the room as Cody was walking to the DR, and he was like, "Vote with your heart." And it just cracked me up. I was like, "Oh, I love this man, and he's about to walk out the door."
Yeah. Yeah, I thought, it was I think it was cool like how it all went down too with Ian coming to that conclusion and then sharing it with Kaser and then Kaser. I just thought that it was like maybe this was my favorite episode. I was at least on the edge of my seat like screaming
Yeah.
at the TV multiple times.
Someone finally got themselves off the block, which was the first major. I mean, that was
Yeah.
last episode, but still, exciting week.
So
Yeah, Sam, you had never seen someone use the veto before.
that's
No.
right. That's fun. So here's something, I'm going to break our rule for a second because I think it's important for the audience, for a casual viewer to know a couple of things that happened this week that were
Yes.
not.
It's not spoilers, though.
It's not
just
spoilers.
I know what I'm saying this because
Yeah.
I know what you're about to say, but it's
Yeah,
just what happened in the previous week. that we didn't
It's not a spoiler. It's just what happened in the house that you're never going to see on real TV because production hated it. There was somebody on the other side of the backyard wall with a megaphone that yelled out to the people in the backyard, "Cody and Nicole are playing everyone." So that's the first thing that happened. A lot of people in the backyard heard it. So that's the first thing that happened. The second thing that happened was a plane with one of those word banners in the back flew across the yard, and this hasn't been totally confirmed, but it sounds like that this happened, and it said Nicole is a liar.
It also, I was thinking today, it could have been a drone. 'Cause
Oh, it
all
could have
we've
been a
heard
drone.
is
Yeah.
banner. I thought about this and then I was like, oh my gosh.
That would make
on the
so much more
episode
sense.
Yesterday, we were like, someone paid for a plane. And now I'm like, oh, it was probably a drone.
That is
Let's-
a
let's
much
Step
smarter.
into 2020, Ellen.
But so those two things happen, and why I think that it's important for a more casual viewer to know that is because as much as I love Ian, he did
Yes.
not come to those conclusions on his own like they made it look
Yes.
like. It was the wall yeller that made him go, wait a minute, why would somebody say that? Oh,
That being said, he was the only person in the house to come to the conclusion given all of that information.
right. Everyone else was like, okay.
Everyone else was like, oh, well, Nicole's probably not lying to me. And
Yeah,
like
it was so
Cody and Nicole
ridiculous.
are probably not playing me. Everybody's
Right.
just like, well, it probably has nothing to do with me because I'm smart and I
Right.
would know that.
Right.
So they all just like thought it wasn't a personal thing. But it's like, no, if someone's doing if somebody cares enough to go to the Big Brother studio and yell out of a megaphone or fly a drone, then it probably is true.
yeah.
There's probably something happening.
It does show you how frustrated people are with the audience, at least, is with the way they're playing this game. Someone
Yeah.
literally went to the Big Brother studio to change the way people were playing this game, and it
Yes.
seemingly worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and Kaser's message in his goodbye at the end, that do you want to play All Stars or do you want to play charades?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what we're all feeling.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's part of what we love about him so much. He also talked a lot in his speech, or not speech, when he was talking to Julie. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but he was talking about, well, maybe I just will. You guys want to hear it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Come back for the money.
Oh, sorry. Let me start over.
I know production's gonna kill me, but I didn't come back for the money. I didn't. I came back because Big Brother was a platform that changed my life the first time around 15 years ago, and I felt as though it was
bigger than the money.
It was so much more. It was part of it was a call to duty to come back to make a difference. And I just was not okay with, I'm a father now, and I'm not okay with the way that the world is today. There's so much pain and so much division. I felt as though we had to take a stand, and somebody had to step up and say, there's a better way.
Casey.
And I felt.
So I'm going to stop it there for a second because I think that it sounds like he went into the house for really good reasons. And I'm so glad that they actually aired a lot of the conversations he had with people, because I do think that he accomplished what he wanted to. But then
Yeah.
there's Julie Chen. So let's just finish this little.
Oh no, I don't know if I can listen to it
It
again.
was so painful for me.
Jake
but-
took a picture of my reaction and I'm
Did-
going to post it on
Nice.
the house meeting Instagram
Like
because
I seriously was like tearing up while he was like talking.
I'm showing the picture right now. I'll post
Oh
it.
boy.
I was almost crying.
Oh geez. Okay, so this is the rest of this.
Felt like that was why I was able to walk out of this house with my head held high.
Kaser, that is exactly why the public voted you back in
Oh my
15
God.
years ago. Back then.
Oh, jeez.
Julie, how could you? I even knew that it wasn't true, and I still was like, wait,
Yeah.
what? Like, you don't say something like that.
No.
Ugh.
God.
She makes a lot of, Chenbot makes a lot of mistakes, right? We all know that.
Sometimes she malfunctions.
This
They put
was
in
the
wrong-
worst one I have ever seen.
Oh, it was bad.
It hurt me, and his reaction, he was so stoked for like a half a second.
And the way she delivered it too. And that's
I
why
know.
they voted you back to be in the house on your last season you were here. It's like, what?
Oh God,
Oh, it was so icky. Oh.
that was like actually became like the highlight of the episode for me. Like it's making me like sweat
Oh.
right now just
I
thinking about
know.
it. Like
I stood up from my chair and walked away from the TV. It was so
it was so
and
bad.
then I felt like bad for him too.
Oh,
because it
yeah.
made him look stupid, and it made her look stupid. It made us look stupid.
It was so awful. It was
so bad.
It was such a painful moment. And then again, you know, Kaysar was very surprised that Memphis was in that alliance, and Memphis is just sitting pretty. Do you guys know that guy goes to bed at 10 o'clock every night, maybe 10:30?
Yes.
And Kaysar even asked him. He was like, "Hey man, this is my last night in the house. Will you stay up till like midnight and hang out?" And Memphis is like, "No." Like he is
Oh my
such a
gosh.
grandpa, and he's
He
gonna win the
is.
freaking game.
And so was like, this was in the feeds, but obviously last week, no spoilers or anything. But he was like, we're all out here stressing every day. Everybody in this alliance is stressing until 2 a.m. and Memphis is going to bed at 10. It's just like, yeah,
It's true.
He lives by gremlin rules.
Yeah.
And if he stays up past midnight, he turns into a gremlin.
Totally. Yeah.
Can we
go
talk for a second about Christmas's
Ugh.
rhyme speech? That you
Oh
couldn't-
God.
it was so bad you couldn't tell it was a rhyme.
like that was like the
Yeah.
worst part until Julie had her flub.
Yeah, I was like, oh gosh.
It was so embarrassing. And can I tell you guys that on the feeds, she told somebody that I think it was David. David was like, "You did a good job on your speech." And she was like, "Well, thank you so much for saying that. Like, if Julie Chen ever doesn't want to be host anymore, like, I want to be host." And I kind of saw that as my
Oh.
audition.
Yeah,
and I
she
was
was.
like,
Yeah, she was like, that was my audition. I was like, oh.
okay,
God.
like, girl, you did not get it.
Davon, maybe, but you know.
No, dude. Like, oh, Christmas. You're so out of your element.
Yeah. And then what about Danny saying
Oh, Danny was
he
so.
disrespectful
Oh.
and tasteless?
You lying.
I know.
We all see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, she's literally describing herself.
There was nothing tasteless about that.
No.
There was actually nothing disrespectful or tasteless about it. He was calling people out. It's part of the game.
Also,
didn't say
She just knows
anything
no matter
petty.
what. She knows no matter what. Janelle and him have already won by being America's favorites.
Yeah.
forever.
yeah,
Like,
she's just mad and jealous.
She
And-
can probably tell from like the nature of the wall yeller and stuff whose side America is on. And
Yeah.
that hurts to find out.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, and the thing that's so then we had HOH and Davon was just so close to winning.
know.
She was and these are some of my favorite competitions because they cause so much drama because each person that wins a round has to choose 2 more people to go. So you're sort of showing your cards. You're
Yes.
forced to.
it was messed up in my opinion for them. Like, bad game to focus in. They kept calling the same people back up. The people within the alliance kept targeting the same people in that game, and it's like, okay, that's bad game, and it's just crazy rude to keep making people come back up there, and then Christmas doesn't go up once.
She
and
didn't go up once.
wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. Davon truly did win that game. She won the most rounds in the game. And
Yeah.
Christmas, I don't even think Christmas pushed a button
She
once.
didn't.
That's so frustrating.
I know. And so now she's HOH and who knows? I mean, I say who knows what she's going to do, but she's in that alliance, or at least she thinks she is. So she's going to do whatever Cody tells her to do. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very frustrating, but the light at the end of this tunnel is that there's a basement twist coming.
Yes.
And
Oh,
let's
yeah.
just hope that causes some serious drama and it's not a flop because we need something big to happen.
She said there are 3 powers, I think.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's
They're
a
just
lot.
Yeah.
they're gonna open the basement up, and it's gonna be Kaysar, Janelle, and Nicole, and they just get to come back, even though they know everything.
Yeah. Oh God, that would be amazing. And you know, that was it. I mean, not that was it. It was a great episode. It was honestly so good and fun, and there was a lot of drama, and I was on the edge of my seat. It was a great episode, well edited, loved it. But I just don't know what's gonna happen, and I
Yeah.
just want something good to happen for the people that I like, which is basically Davon and Ian at this point.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I want to believe that this house, I want to believe that Christmas would make a move, but there's no part of me that believes that
No.
Christmas is going to make a move. So,
No, she volunteered to be a pawn. Like she
Yeah.
doesn't know how to play this game.
yeah.
So should we do a draft update? I don't think we did one last time, so I actually don't
No.
remember where we're at all.
Yes, let's
Oh,
remind the
geez.
viewers.
Okay, Sam. Well, guess what, you guys? I have 2 points. I think last time I didn't have any. I have 2 points.
Oh, well, that's exciting.
Yeah, what are they from? They are from Tyler getting HOH and Kevin winning veto, which was a surprising point for me.
That is.
And then Sam has 7 points.
What? Oh my
Enzo
gosh.
has won, I think, twice now because he won
Yeah.
the safety suite last week.
Wow.
Enzo won 3 times, including a safety sweep.
Oh wow! Oh yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
Wow.
Yeah, he won a veto, a safety suite, and an HOH. Cody won HOH and veto. And Memphis won HOH and veto.
Wow. What do I
so-
have?
And you have 3 points.
Oh, I do?
Yes. So you
Oh.
have the first 2 safety suites, Kaser
Okay.
and Christmas. And then you have Christmas's HOH win. So you have 3
Oh.
points.
I forgot Christmas was on my team. I guess I should be nicer.
We do all have 3, or no, we all have 4. We're even, our teams are even right now in terms
Oh.
of who's been eliminated, which is interesting because, so we all have 4 people. So there's 12 people left in the house. We each have 4.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of hope for like David. I don't even have a lot of hope for Davon winning comps.
No.
She's just
No.
not.
She's not good
She
at
was so close, and that was the comp for her to win.
Yeah.
But she's not a physical competitor.
No.
She's smart, so
Mhm.
with some of those comps, it might be more of a chance. But I'm feeling a little.
All right.
a
Well,
little scared.
Sam is way ahead. So
Yeah, because you have Cody and Memphis and
Yeah.
Enzo.
you picked a good team. Okay, well, so I have one more thing that I wanted to I found an article, or no, I guess I found out a story about an old BB season. And so I'm going to call this segment Remember When. So during Big Brother 6, James Ryan convinced Maggie and the rest of her alliance that one of the perks of being HOH was that the cameras in the HOH room didn't broadcast to the live feeds. So, so in the house, one person convinced the other people that the HOH room was like free for all, so you could just talk. You could be open and
Wow.
free, and that live feeders wouldn't hear it.
That's brilliant.
This, of course, was not true, but they believed him and proceeded to reveal some not so pleasant facts about themselves in the HOH room.
Oh no.
One house guest said that she had been a mistress to a married man and ended up ruining his marriage, and that she was proud of it.
Ooh.
Another used racial slurs referring to a Middle Eastern house guest. Guess who that is?
God.
Kaser.
Oh wow.
And finally, Maggie, who was the season's eventual winner, revealed that as a nurse, she was involved in a wrongful death lawsuit. She didn't reveal her full involvement with the person's death, but since her confession was broadcast on the live feeds, she became known as Maggie the Murderer. And
Oh my
God.
gosh.
she has since completely disassociated herself from the Big Brother franchise.
Well,
Wow,
yeah.
that's for the best for CBS. Wow.
Isn't that
You know,
crazy?
So I'm watching this documentary right now, series on HBO called The Vow, and it's about the NXIVM cult in upstate New York. And part of the inner workings of this cult was you had to reveal deep secrets like that so
Ooh.
that they had
Huh.
something to hold over to you. And I'm like, okay, so this is like cult methods of manipulation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, it's
And
I-
I guess it was an early enough season that they just didn't know how it worked. Or
Yeah.
like they didn't watch feeds or something.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
I think it's kind of hilarious and kind of amazing, but
Wow.
Well, I mean,
but I mean,
not for some of them.
yeah, I mean not for
Yeah.
all of them, but also like I guess you should be a better person than like
Yeah, you should just be a better person.
Yeah. Yeah, so oh sorry.
I was like, wow, that's an abrupt ending.
Yeah, and we're
Like,
done. We're
this
done.
was our last segment, but
And we're done.
Well, this nurse killed a guy. Bum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum.
Oh boy. Anyway. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway. So yeah, I'm super stoked for next week. Or I guess this week, starting now. I think they're gonna announce the basement stuff for live. Like I think we're gonna start finding out some details about that like maybe today or tomorrow, and I cannot wait. I'm dying for it.
I was hoping it would happen in these episodes, and I wish they
Yeah.
would start introducing things that messed with the game in the episode. So that I don't, whatever, we'll see.
Yeah.
Sometimes they announce it live in front of the house guests. It kind of just depends.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well,
Sometimes they'll get called in from like they'll all just be like lazing around the house, and they'll get called in. And I think I hope that I don't know. I hope it's a big surprise to them because some of them think that there's going to be like a battle back or something, and
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that there's going to be. I'm really hoping that they're all thrown off by the fact that there's not.
yeah. I think it's gonna. I think it's gonna change the game because there's nothing going on in the game. So something.
Yes, it's gonna do something.
It's gonna do something. So we'll see what happens, man. But thank you everyone out there for joining us at House Meeting Podcast. And of course, thank you to Daniel for supporting us on Patreon. If you want to join Daniel, please do. We love people like Daniel. It's people like that keep this podcast alive. And thank you again to Ellen and Sam for joining me. I think this week is going to be another fun one. I'm really hoping it's going to be a little more exciting. But we will all see you at the next house meeting. All right. That was great.
Yep. Well,
Okay.
we'll see.
I have to go back to work. But
All right.
thank you guys. That was good stuff. All right.
Yeah.
Stop.
All
Good
right.
episode. Cool.
See you guys soon.
And
Yeah.
Sam, let us know if you ever watch live feeds.
I'm feeling
Let us
like
know
I
if you
need
do.
to, but I also just don't want to add more to the
It's-
schedule.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah,
we'll-
you
we'll
just said
see.
you might be interested. So if you ever do, let us know.
It's
I
also hard because like you'll turn them on and there's nothing going on. And you're like, this is such a waste of my life. I'm literally
Yeah.
watching other
I-
people wasting their lives. Like,
Yes.